Chapter 16. After spending most of the night lying awake, I decided to tell my parents. Since Bill had offered to help, I called him. Now that I'd made up my mind, I was eager to get it done. I dialed Bill's phone and paced through the apartment while it rang. "Hello?" A voice I didn't recognize came over the line. "Bill?" I asked. "This is Gabriel. Bill's in the other room and asked me to answer the phone. He'll be right here." "Gabriel, it's Nickie. How've you been?" "Good. Keeping busy, you?" "Good, I've gone back to work and have been spending time at the clinic." "Have you had time to run?" "Not in a while. I need to find someone to go with and go soon." I told him what Caden said about not having shifted. "You busy this evening?" "Yeah, I'm going to the Jeffries for dinner. Why?" "I was thinking about going for a run and thought you might like to go." "Sorry, I already have plans. Do you want to make it another night?" "When's good for you?" "I don't have any plans for Monday evening. Will that work?" "Monday's good. What time?" "I get off at 5. I'm usually home by 5:15. "How about I pick you up at 5:30? We'll grab some fast food on our way." "Sounds great. I'll be ready." "Bill just came in, so I'll let you talk to him. I'll see you Monday." I heard him tell Bill it was me on the line and the rustle of the PCD being handed over. "Nickie?" Bill's deep voice came over the line. "Yes. How are you doing?" "Good, you?" "Pretty good. I need to ask a favor." "What do you need?" "Help me tell my parents, please. I was afraid I would lose my nerve if I didn't ask quickly." "Of course. When?" "As soon as you have time. It would probably be best to do it here, over dinner. Let me talk to Karen and get back to you. I'm sure we can do it this week, but I'm not sure when will be best. Let me know, I'll be there." "Will do." "Nickie?" "Yes?" "Don't worry. It'll be fine." "I'll try, but it's hard." "I know. Trust me on this." "I'll try. I'll call you with a day." "Thanks." "Think nothing of it. Your family, you know that." "Thank you." "Is that all?" "Yes, sir." I fell back on the manners my mother had drilled into us as children. "Then I'll let you go. Call if you need anything." "Will do. Bye." "Bye." At 4, I knocked on Devon's door. It opened and I felt a rush of moist air. The scent of soap told me he'd recently gotten out of the shower. Devon's hair was wet, but he'd pulled it back into what I was starting to discover was his standard ponytail. He was dressed in a navy blue polo shirt and a pair of pressed jeans, but his feet were bare. "You about ready?" I asked. "Just about. Come in while I pull on my boots." He turned and disappeared into the bedroom, only to reappear with his boots and a pair of socks. I watched as he sat and pulled on one sock and boot, and then the other. He tucked his jeans over his boots and stood, flexing his feet into place in the well-polished footwear. "Now I'm ready. You driving, or am I?" "I'll drive. I know where we're headed." "Fine by me." Devon motioned me toward the door. We made the short drive in companionable silence, and a few minutes later, pulled up in front of the Jeffries home. It wasn't until we got out of the car and headed for the door that I felt the vibrating tension from Devon. I looked over, he was smiling and looked relaxed. I wondered what was bothering him, but it slipped my mind when the door opened and there was Alexis, smiling and excited. "There you are," she bubbled. "Come on in, we're out back. I heard you pull up. Want something to drink?" She stepped back and gave us room to enter. "What do you have?" Devon asked. Water, tea, soda, beer. She led us through the house. I'll take a beer if you don't mind, Devon said. I'm driving tonight, I better stick to soda, I said. You can have beer if you want it, didn't anyone tell you? She looked surprised. Our fast metabolisms process alcohol too quickly. You'd have to drink like a whole bottle of whiskey as quickly as a beer to be affected. No one told me, I was still unsure. How about we do this? I'm planning on being here a couple hours at least. I'll have a beer now, and we will consider more based on how it affects me. Sounds good. Devon put in. Not a bad idea, Hank said as he entered the room. Oh. I forgot. Hank, Alexis, this is Devon. Devon, this is Hank and Alexis, the Pax Lysandros and Harmonia. Pleased to meet you both, Devon extended his hand to first Hank, then Alexis. It's nice to meet you too, Hank said. It's been a long time, you look good, Alexis said. You know him? Hank asked Alexis. My best friend in school was Devon's older sister, Amy. I used to see him a lot, though back then he was an annoying little brother who would never leave us alone. Right? It's true. The two of you left before I started high school. You weren't back yet when I left town. Why don't we go sit down? I have dinner ready to go on the grill. There's nothing left to do that we can't put together in the last few minutes. But it's still a little early, so let's enjoy the nice evening, Alexis said. We followed her out onto the back patio. A table and chairs were to one side, and on the other side sat a large brick grill with a large fire crackling inside. It smelled of mesquite smoke. We would cook over the coals once it burned down. Devon, you said you left some time ago. What have you been up to? Hank asked as we took seats around the table. I ran away and joined the army, just like boys have been doing for centuries, he laughed. I liked it, and planned to make a career of it until my injury ended it. Now I'm home, much to my mother's delight, working for Nickie's dad. He needed someone to help him on the farm, someone who could do the heavy lifting. Devon explained about the deal he had with Dad and how things were going, ending with, my boss is someone who understands if I need to take a few extra breaks or call it a day early when my leg acts up. Does it do that often? Alexis asked. Not so much anymore, but sometimes when I've put a lot of stress on it. Sounds like a good deal for you both. I think so. I think James is starting to think so too. He was a bit cautious. I think he expected me to do as little as I could get away with. He's used to how most kids work. After a week, I think he's realizing it's not how I do things. That's good for both of you, Alexis said. Do you have any long-term plans? No. I like working for James, and I'm still getting settled in here. That's the extent of my plans. I'll see what comes my way for a while before I make any decisions. Sounds like you have a good head on your shoulders, Hank said. You seem a lot like your dad in that way. I've been told that. It's a damn shame I didn't inherit the one trait that matters. That surprised me. I'd never heard him sound so bitter about his inability to shift. He'd seemed accepting of it. Suddenly, I noticed the tension I'd felt from him outside the front door was back, and stronger. What do you mean? Hank seemed confused. Surely you know I may be considered kindred because of my family, but I don't belong. I don't shift. Well, of course I know you aren't a shifter. That doesn't mean you don't belong. Or that anything's wrong with you. Why not? Everyone else thinks so. Devon Wilson. Alexis called him by both names in surprise. I do not. I'm certain most of the pack feel the same way I do. I'm not so sure. Devon leaned back in his chair and folded his arms across his chest. Hang on a minute, everyone calm down. I think I know what's going on here. Hank was calm but confident. What? I was confused. Devon, it's been what? 10 years since you left? Hank asked, About that. You were what? 18 when it was determined that would never shift? How much time was there between when you were told you weren't a shifter and you leaving? A few weeks, maybe. I joined the army as soon as the Anikitos gave me permission to leave. I left as soon as they could get me into basic, he answered grudgingly. I've seen this before. Really? Devon asked. You know someone else who can't shift? His voice was skeptical. Yes, I do, Devon. Hank's voice was calm. I have a sister who doesn't shift. When she was about 18, it was decided she would probably never shift. She was very angry for a while. She felt everyone in the family and in the pack thought she was less than they were, and they pitied her. Don't they? The resentment in Devon's voice stunned me. Maybe a little at first. The pity, that is, but they didn't feel superior. It took a while for her to realize that yes, they felt sorry for her at first, but that passed. They still treated her like they always had. She was still a member of the pack and in most ways an equal. What are you trying to say? I'm being childish. Devon snapped. Not at all. I'm trying to point out you're operating on perceptions that are 10 years old. Give your family and the rest of the pack a chance. I think you'll find no one pities you or believes they're better than you. More than that, you may find many admire you for being able to make so much of yourself despite the disappointment of not shifting. Devon took a deep breath beside me and let it out slowly, tension draining from him. All right, I see your point, Devon said carefully. I'm sorry for the chip on my shoulder. I'm not sure what triggered it. I really have accepted that I'll never shift. I understand part of it. You came to terms with it, I don't doubt that. You built a life for yourself that wasn't affected by not shifting. Then you were hurt, discharged, and now you're back. You've had it all thrust back in your face. I've been back for 3 weeks, 2 of that living with my parents. Why would it take this long, and why now? Who knows, maybe seeing Alexis. From her reaction when it started, I'm sure she used to torment you as a kid. Perhaps that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and you couldn't contain it anymore. Whatever caused it, it's over. Let's move on. We can still enjoy our evening. I hope so, Devon said hopefully. I'm sorry, Alexis. I promise I'll do better. You okay? I asked. I think I am now. I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. It's all right. This is kind of why I've been reluctant to tell my family. I'm afraid I'll end up feeling like you have. Let's enjoy our dinner. Let me process everything. If you want, we can talk about it in a few days. I'll hold you to it. I smiled. Devon, I haven't seen your sister in years. How is she? Alexis drew us back into conversation. Good, I guess. She married some guy from Texas and lives with his pack down there. They visit a couple times a year, but they haven't been back at the same time as me since before her kids were born. She has kids? 3 all girls. I hear they're all as wild and untamed as she was. Well, if anyone deserves it, she does. I can't tell you how much trouble I got into because she came up with some stunt, Alexis laughed. I don't doubt it. She was always getting into one kind of trouble or another. What she didn't think of, you did. Alexis laughed harder while he continued, I hear she has settled down a lot and motherhood has done wonders for her. How about your brother? Jason, isn't it? He went away to school and is somewhere in California, working for some software company. I'm sure he's dating someone, because when has Jason not dated? But no one serious enough he'd tell Mom, which means I've heard nothing. Are you saying the only information you get about your brother and sister is through your mom? Alexis exchanged looks with Hank as he came back from tending the fire. Nah, I talked to Amy some. Not often, but I've talked to her since I came back. Jason, well, we've never been close. I'm not sure I even have his number. We message occasionally. He was so casual about not speaking to his brother, as if it were normal. Maybe for him it was. I couldn't imagine not speaking to my family like that. It would make me crazy. The grill's ready. Do you want to get the steaks, sweetheart? Hank asked. Sure. Nickie, will you come help me? Alexis asked. I stood and followed. She pulled a platter of steaks from the fridge, along with a smaller tray of asparagus spears. She set both plates on the counter and seasoned the steaks, motioning toward a stack of potatoes on the counter. I've already washed those, but can you stick them into the microwave and get them started? Sure. Let me take these out, I'll be right back. She carried both the steaks and the asparagus outside. When she came back in, she asked, How do you like your steak cooked? Rare to medium rare if possible, I answered. She grabbed a clean platter and a tray of condiments off the counter. Can you carry that stack? Then all we have to come back for are the potatoes. No problem, I grabbed the stack of plates and flatware and followed. As I carried the small stack out and set it on the table, I noticed Devon seemed more relaxed than he'd been. I suspected Hank had said something to make him more at ease. Not wanting to make his tension return, I kept my mouth shut. I picked up my beer and drained the last of the cold liquid. Can I get you another one? Alexis asked. I turned, making sure she was speaking to me. Thanks, but I'd rather have a soda if you don't mind. Not at all. She took the bottle and dropped it in a recycling bin on the edge of the patio, opened the ice chest sitting next to it, and turned and asked, Coke or Pepsi? Pepsi, please. She pulled out the signature blue can and brought it to me. Thanks, I said, popping the can open before taking a long drink. I returned to my seat, set the can on the table, and leaned forward to rest my chin on my stacked hands as I watched Hank expertly man the grill. It was obviously something he enjoyed. I was lost in thought when a hand touched my arm. I turned my head and saw Devon. You okay? He asked. Fine. Just thinking. I smiled as he pulled his hand away. Good or bad? You looked a little lost. Good. I was noticing how at home Hank is at the grill. He must do it often. He does. Alexis looked over at her husband fondly. Not always with the wood, though. When we're in a hurry, he'll use charcoal. We like to entertain, and Hank loves that thing. I was a little leery when he built it, but I have to admit, it's been well worth it. Hank turned and waved one hand. Alexis picked up the clean platter and took it to him. She set the platter down on the wide edge of the grill and went back inside. A couple minutes later, she emerged with a large plastic bowl of salad and a plate with the potatoes. She set both on the table while Hank pulled the steaks off the grill and brought them over. He placed the platter in the center of the table. 4 slabs of beef, still bloody as requested. Dig in, Hank said. We each took plates and flatware and served ourselves. With our plates full, I took a bite of my steak. The flavor burst in my mouth, and I couldn't contain a small moan. What did you put on this steak? I've never had one quite this good. A little steak seasoning, I'll show you which one before you go, Alexis said. It's not the seasoning. It's skill at the grill. Hank's voice was serious, but his face showed this was an old game. We finished eating while they debated why the steaks were so good. After dinner, Hank tossed more wood on the grill, and it doubled as a nice fire as the sun set and the air cooled. How's your training going? Hank asked. As well as can be expected, I think. I'm comfortable with my telepathy, and Karen says I'm progressing with shielding. I haven't had any practice calling animal forms, but after spending some time here and seeing Alexis do it, I think I understand the principles. That's more than I could say when I started. There's one thing that I haven't figured out. Really? What's that? It's hard to explain, but sometimes I feel like something's changed since the last time I saw someone, especially if the last time was before I first shifted. I sense energy around people. Sometimes I know what it is, but sometimes I can't figure it out. Or like the first time I shook your hand and got that jolt. It was almost like a shock, but not quite. I saw a ghost of a smile forming on Hank's face and got the feeling he knew what I was talking about. Who have you told about this? The first time I felt it was with my brother. I kept asking him what had changed, what was different. He insisted there was nothing, but I'm not sure I believe him. I still haven't figured it out. That was about 3 weeks ago. I still feel like something's different, I just can't place it. Other than that, I've asked Bill about it when it first happened. He had no idea. Now the three of you, why? Because I know what it is. How? How can you know but Bill doesn't? Because I have it too. That's why you felt the shock when we shook hands. I don't talk about it. I'm not sure Bill even knows about it. What is it? What is going on? You're sensing power. The stronger the sensation, the more powerful. Though some powers feel different and register strength differently. Some strong emotions register as well. Who's this brother you were pestering? Rain, I replied. Wait, you're Rain Daniels' sister? Yeah, I was confused. How did he know Rain? I never would have guessed. I've known Rain since shortly after I moved to town. Few people would realize who my family is if they weren't told. We look nothing alike. I wasn't the only one who was adopted. Out of the 6, 4 were adopted. That explains a lot. He nodded. Anyway. Rain. I know what you're sensing, he's a seer. He has visions. It comes from his Native American blood, I'm almost certain. That kind of talent tends to be passed down in shaman families. But how? How can he be a seer and have kept it secret from all of us for all these years? I don't know. How old was he when he was adopted? I was 3 or 4, so he was 4 or 5. I did the math in my head. It's possible he learned to hide it from his biological family. I guess, but he's always said he can't remember his family. That could be true, but that's not what we're talking about anyway. We were talking about you, and by extension me, he redirected the conversation. Okay, I'll just go to him. Back to us. Tell me how this sensing power business works. First, you have to remember Rain has no clue what you are. You'll have to figure out how to get it out of him without telling him how you know, he warned. But back to us, you already know the basics. You get a feeling, a sensation, something's different. Or a shock when you touch someone. He smiled wryly. The real trick isn't sensing the power, it's learning to differentiate the different kinds and strengths. You'll learn kitsune have a feel to them, it's like you can sense their animal form inside them. I've also noticed the stronger emotions I feel only come from kindred. I've never sensed it from a human. I can see why kitsune would have a sense of power around them. Other than telling when someone has a power of some kind, is there anything I can do with it? I wish I could tell you all these great things you can learn to do, but as far as I can tell, there's not a whole lot there. It's not something that can be seen. I've only learned what I know by trial and error. Until you, I'd never met anyone else with it. I only know what Rain is because I've known a seer before and recognized the energy. So you know, I haven't said anything to him. I see, I said. At least I know what it is, and I can stop trying to figure out what's changed. Thanks for sharing, it's helpful. Now I'll have to learn how different powers and energies feel. That's all I can recommend. That's how I've done it for years. This is good, now I know what it is and what to do. Really thanks, I said sincerely. We visited for a while longer. It was almost 9 when Devon finally called an end to the evening, saying he had to get up early. We thanked the Jeffreys and headed home. I'm really sorry about earlier tonight. I don't know what came over me, Devon said once we were in the car. It's okay. You surprised me. I didn't realize you were that bitter about it. Me either. I think it was seeing Alexis again, maybe with a kindred husband. I used to have a huge crush on her. You acted like you barely knew her when I asked. I got over it years ago. I didn't want you to think I had a thing for her, plus you said she was married. I didn't want to upset him either. Some kindred are possessive and jealous of their spouses, especially if they aren't mated. I let the silence fall as I wondered what the hell he meant by mated. The ride home was quiet. We said goodnight on the sidewalk where we split to go to our apartments. I went up to mine and fell into bed, exhausted.